Hello, everybody. I'm Richard Gayton, and Mitch McDonald is with me. And this is Halo, Love, and Country. And if you look back over our podcasts over the last many months, we have dealt with the risks, the real dangers of speaking out in America, whether you're LGBTQ or you're Black, or apparently now, if you're white. Our broadcast today is dedicated to the fallen in Minneapolis. We dedicate this broadcast to, let me get everyone's names right here. Renee Nicole Good, age 37, a United States citizen, mother of three, and poet who recently moved to Minneapolis, was murdered January 7th by ICE. Alex Jeffrey Preddy, a 37-year-old ICU nurse at the Minneapolis Veterans Administration Hospital, known for delivering a salute to a veteran who had passed on his shift. He was shot and killed by a U.S. Border Patrol agent while wielding a cell phone and laying on his stomach. And of course, we know the man murdered, killed George Perry Floyd, a Black American from Houston, Texas, known as a gifted athlete in high school and a contributor to the Houston hip hop scene. He dealt with all kinds of issues. He had a criminal history, although some of it sounds like it was pretty doubtful. He was suffocated to death by police in Minneapolis, and it's been like 4 or 5 years ago now. As if Minneapolis wasn't going through enough, after the murder of their children by a gun-wielding person, we now have our federal government on the streets in Minneapolis shooting people apparently for very little reason. My condolences go out to the families of those who have died. It was particularly hard for me to hear about Miss Good. She was a mother of children. My wife was murdered she had 15, 13-year-old and 10-year-old. Renee Goods were very nearly the same age and now are suffering. Mr. Preddy helped us veterans. He was a nurse. He worked in the hospital. Apparently, it's illegal now to be a white American on the street protesting. It's now life-threatening, and I want to caution everybody who is now protesting that the law no longer protects you. I guess Black folks have known that always. I guess it's coming home now to white folks. It is a sad day for me to see a federal government who I have always supported, who I served in the Navy and the Army, watch them turn against normal citizens expressing their First Amendment rights. Renee Good was moving an automobile. She was involved in a protest, but her last words were, "Hey, dude, I'm not mad at you. I'm just leaving." She didn't say this, but she was just leaving the scene, I think because she was asked to. She was demanded to by ICE. Mr. Preddy had a cell phone in his hands. If you look at the pictures in the New York Times, just look at the pictures. He was laying on his stomach with a cell phone in his hands. An ICE agent comes up to him. He was carrying a firearm, but it was in a holster. The ICE agent reaches down, takes the weapon, and begins, not with that weapon, but with some other handgun, shoots Mr. Preddy, and then other agents join in shooting Mr. Preddy. It has an eerie echo of the George Floyd killing, where many police were surrounding this man. And we know that Mr. Floyd was a father, I think, of 5. Had apparently, we don't know if he meant to or not, passed a $20 bill that was counterfeit in a liquor store. Is that now a reason for murdering people? I don't quite understand what's going on in America right now. And George Floyd was held to the ground, as we know, with a knee on his neck, which killed him. And the officer that murdered him, and we have to say it's murder, and that's what he was convicted of, is now in prison. The 2 people that killed, or several people, I guess, were involved in killing these two other people in Minneapolis, apparently are not being investigated. I don't know any more about that. But I just want to say to those who are listening, the law no longer protects us. So when we speak out, we may be killed for that now. And one needs to be ready for that and prepared to protect themselves. And I don't know how to do that. I'm not sure even how to do that. If you look back in our broadcast, we warned about this coming. We could see that the federal government was becoming increasingly lawless. We saw it initially in the suppression. We found that LGBTQ people didn't want to speak out anymore, or didn't want to come on the maybe because we didn't have enough audience, I don't know. But they didn't come. They stopped coming. All the people we talked, people just didn't want to come anymore. And so I think we all need to be aware now of the risks of speaking out. I don't know. It's not going to stop me from speaking out. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep saying I'm still going to go to protests. I'm still going to speak out. But something fundamentally has changed now. And I think we need to be aware of that. Anyway, what are you thinking, Mitch?
I think you're kind of on a hook there. It's not a change. It's not a case of the government now being unlawful in the way it does things. It has always been like this. If you are not adjacent to power in the United States of America, you cannot expect a fair shake. There are a lot of people, what was that, 20 some odd years ago, with the whole OJ thing. There were a lot of people who would gladly tell you they thought he was guilty, but they would simultaneously say, but this is our turn. If you have money and you have means, there's very little you can't do. There's very little you can't get away with. If you are part of the system and you have access within it, there is very little you can't get away with. As poors, we are not part of that system. We are not sufficiently privileged. Not always, because I say that and I immediately have to recognize that I am incredibly privileged. I have had so many opportunities that other people I know definitely have not had. Um, and we've actually had that discussion, you and I, on the show. We've had that discussion about things that you did as a young man that you absolutely should have been penalized for, but in the community that you were in, with your whiteness, with your presence in the community, the police sidestepped you. It was a warning. It was a drive home when it should have been a ride to the police station and a court date. I can honestly say I've been in that exact same situation because my father knew people, and I was saved from my own stupidity by the kindness of others and people wanting me to be better and do better and have opportunity and become somebody. And for the two of us being able to say that, there are thousands of people who have been railroaded and bulldozed and buried, quite literally buried, because they weren't present in the system in a way that they could get away with this. Um, and I mean, we have the scales. Justice is supposed to be blind, and I'm happy to appreciate that it has not always been blind where I am personally concerned. But that shouldn't result in people dying. The situation that we have now isn't even a question of, in my opinion, it's not even a question of whiteness. They're not being shot or not shot because they're white or they're not white. There's an agenda here. There is a plan. Project 2025 was clearly stated to be a future possibility with the inauguration of Donald Trump this second time. And it was poo-pooed, it was ignored, it was pushed off to the side, and it has nonstop been the driving force of what he has done. The driving force, his growing loss of cognition is the other side of it. He's just doing the most random and wild things, and there's no one in the system left to tell him no, because they have their plan, and his stupidity and foolishness don't slow that plan down at all. If anything, they it gives them even more access, more opportunity to subvert law, the Constitution in this country. And honestly, I am stunned that it's Minneapolis that is going to be the first place to stand up and draw a line.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I was positive it would be somewhere in Chicago. I was positive that would be the flashpoint, and I don't know if we're even in the flashpoint now, with Walls just absolutely pussing out, just taking no responsibility, ignoring every opportunity, leaving his people in the street. He effectively, the police and the National Guard are there only to keep the protesters under control. Why have they not arrested the ICE agents? Why have
That's
they
what I was
moved
wondering.
every car? Why have they not put them on a bus
Yeah.
and driven them the fuck out of town? Why?
I, when I heard him first call up the National Guard, I said, "Oh, finally, the state is going to call up and use the resources it has to confront the federal government."
Yes.
And yet, there, that's not been the tradition lately. It seemed like that he just, I don't know what the National Guard is doing. I suspect they're wearing their yellow vests and not doing much of anything. I don't know.
Well, no,
The
and they're not.
police
They have
and the
been
police
set to.
are outnumbered.
Oh yes, and he said that early on. He said that the ICE agents outnumbered and outgunned them. Which just that he had to say that out loud. Just that he had to say out loud that this lawless force in my city has my people outgunned and outnumbered. That was his cue. They are committing crimes. They are a problem. I need a greater force to deal with them. That should have been the day that he called on the National Guard. But instead, he has called the National Guard up to go protect city hall or some state office building in Minneapolis that no one cares about. No one has gone anywhere near it. And his statement was, well, with the National Guard there's more police freed up to deal with issues in the street. And the issues in the street have consistently been arresting protesters, not keeping not they're actively still driving with ICE agents to locations. There was some issue yesterday. Okay, so the thing that I've been saying, and I don't remember how much of this is reflected in our conversations. The number one thing I've been saying is the people need to get together as a group. You got 10 ICE agents, you got a crowd of 100 people. You surround them, you take away whoever they think they're going to drive off with, and then you let them leave. Simple. Well, not simple, but that's the plan. You show up in numbers, you take away their ability to do anything, you send them on their way. You don't serve them, you don't feed them, you don't give them a place to rest, and you get them the hell out of town.
It's the part of getting them out of town or obstructing them, which is illegal. And
right.
There's
right.
the part.
Right. But that should be the police. It should be the police. But if it's not going to be the police, and the police are in the exact same position as those agents. Okay, so what if every cop in town shows up? You got 10 ICE agents, you got 200 cops. You still have a city of 1 million people, several 100,000 people, who, when they show up in force, the cops know perfectly well they can't do anything except get the agents out in one piece. So the situation now, I'm sorry, where I was going to go with that, they've got this situation now where apparently last night they were able to surround and control this group of agents to the point that the agents fled and left their vehicles behind. And during the night, while the agents were gone, someone or some group of people broke into those vehicles.
Okay, so I don't want to advocate anything illegal in here right now. And I don't want to suggest that we're advocating that we physically obstruct ICE agents at this point. I would rather not do that. I don't, because it is actually against the law. I don't know. What are you thinking about that? We don't want to say, I don't know if we want to say openly, because really this podcast is a potential target for the federal government now, apparently. If we're advocating something illegal, are we advocating? I'm not
advocating. Protest and defense against lawlessness is not a crime. If they're acting outside their purview, which they are, by taking people without warrants, which they are, who are not even people under their control. They're arresting citizens. They're arresting people who are within the INS system, going through the system as it is designed to be followed. And they're just snatching them up willy-nilly. They're snatching up people who are no longer in the INS system in that context because they've already done the things that they needed to do. They are here legally. They are permitted to do and act and go just like any other citizen because our laws cover even our guests here in this country. They're acting violently towards them. They're hauling them off to jails with no proper oversight. They're denying them their habeas corpus rights, access to the courts, access to their attorneys, access to their families. They are acting lawfully.
So if they're acting illegally, or do we have the right to act illegally?
It's not illegal to defend yourself in the United States of America. It's just not.
Let me read some data here. The Government Accounting Office, an independent, nonpartisan agency of the United States Congress, found that 70 U.S. citizens were deported by ICE. Let's just say that again. 70 American citizens were deported by ICE. And that's just 2015 to 2020. In the same time, ICE was confirmed to have arrested 4 U.S. citizens and detained 121. Investigators determined that both ICE and U.S. Customs and Border Protection maintain poor and insufficient records and that the numbers may be higher. The GAO found that ICE has defects and loopholes in their training. And in the transactional records access clearinghouse, I'm not even sure what that is, found that ICE named 2,800 US citizens as eligible for deportation. This is between 2002 and 2017. So this is not a new problem. So we're deporting US citizens, we're killing US citizens, and ICE is violating the law repeatedly, substituting what's called an administrative warrant, which is like apparently the agent signs a piece of paper or the supervisor does saying, yes, it's okay to go into somebody's house versus a judicial warrant. Yeah. Well, a judicial warrant, which requires a judge, which we've always required. So somehow ICE is above the law. Now, the question is, what is our duty as citizens when the federal government is operating against the law? We are obligated under our Constitution to resist.
We are
and the question is,
under our Constitution.
We are obligated. We're not. If we are to maintain our democracy, we absolutely have to resist. Now, how can we? I mean, my approach to resistance is nonviolence. Always is. I'm a student of Gandhi. I liked what I saw. I watched they're watching the movie on Gandhi, where Gandhi is going up against what are they doing? They're creating their own salt or something, and it's against the law. And so they violate the law. But then the British trained Indian troops, and I guess the British too, came after the demonstrators with batons and beat them. And Gandhi knelt before them and let them beat him. And that's what he asked people. He asked people not to fight back. And Martin Luther King did the same thing. Martin Luther King was a student of Gandhi and encouraged nonviolent protest. And that's what I advocate is nonviolent protest. And I'm just trying to see how to do that in Minneapolis. What is the best nonviolent way to deal with this? I mean, one way to me is to allow somebody that's being chased by ICE to enter a crowd and just be passive, and you don't fight with anybody, but you also you just maybe sit down. I'm not sure what to do even, and I'm not there, so it's like I'm the wrong person to even say. But that's what I would encourage is nonviolent protest at this point.
Okay, but by the standard of what you're saying, that's not nonviolent protest. They walk into the crowd, run into the crowd, however they get into the crowd. If the crowd does not part and give those agents of government access, they are impeding those officers. And whether you do that by just standing still or sitting down or turning your back on them, pretending you can't hear them, you are still obstructing those agents, even if those agents are doing something illegal. And as far as context of Gandhi goes, I'm not on either side of that line. My version of that is that for every Gandhi, for every Dr. King, you have a Malcolm X, you have the Black Panthers, you have the Weathermen. In the end, the nonviolent arm is the one that actually handles the negotiation. But the only reason the system negotiates is because they know there are a bunch of very violent people right behind you. And their options are to deal with your words or their guns. That is why governments negotiate. And they have to know that we're not going to let them just do as they please, that there will be bloodshed on both sides of that line. And that we simply outnumber them. And in the long run, they're going to lose. The question is just how long to the finish line for all of us.
Well, I think in the case of the British in India, it wasn't violence that changed their mind, but it was that millions of people in India, the numbers were against them. And millions of people around the world joined with them. And in South Africa, most of the world boycotted apartheid.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm trying to remember, do you remember the name of the man that went to jail? I forgot it already.
I'm
The
sorry.
black man.
We're not talking about Stephen Biko. We're talking about uh, he became their president.
Yes. Yeah.
Good
He spent
God.
like 15.
Yeah. Yeah. And the fact
It'll
that I
come to
cannot
us.
remember his name is absolutely insane. Um,
Just, I had a senior moment. So, well, tell us about, do you remember Biko? Because I remember Biko, but I don't remember what he did.
well, no, and it's the exact same thing. It is nonviolent he was a representative of nonviolent resistance. Simply say and I'm sorry, and let me rewind here. Okay, we can call that nonviolent resistance. We can call it nonviolent resistance, but in the end, they didn't leave because, oh, everybody's watching. They left because it was going to cost them too much.
Yeah.
Continuing that fight was going to cost them too much. We cannot fight. We cannot keep putting these people in jail. We cannot deal with the cost of having them in jail, the cost of the bullets, the cost of the soldiers, the cost now after that to our government directly. We're losing access to markets where we're hemorrhaging money. Will stop. I don't call that nonviolent. It doesn't involve a punch, but it's still not nonviolent. It is a direct refusal to accept your criminality on your terms. It is just a scale, because for me, nonviolence is Gandhi sitting on the ground and just saying, what you're doing is wrong. I'll never stop resisting it. I'll never stop telling people that they should not help you. They should not work with you. That what you are doing is wrong. I'm going to sit here and look you in the face while you strike me and tell you that what you are doing is wrong. And you're going to win a few battles that way. There's going to be a few people who tire of beating you while you do
Tired
nothing
of beating
but
you.
blows.
You get tired of it.
Yeah, there are a few people, that ask a parent. You're a parent. There are some parents that reach a point where their child's resistance is just more than they can overcome anymore. They are tired of fighting that. And you have to let that child do what it's going to do. That was Gandhi's version of it. The King version of it was to take away their money while simultaneously doing what Gandhi was doing, saying, nope, 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 nope. You're wrong. You're immoral. You're illegal. You're wrong. And I'm taking your money. And on the other side, and then on the other side of that line is where you run into the people that sound a bit more like me. And let me be clear. I've been on the wrong end of a gun before, but I've never served in our United States military. I've never served in law enforcement. Um, uh, and I cannot say that I have stood up to the people that needed to be stood up to every single time it happened. I have had my own moments of fear and doubt and cowardice.
Probably a good idea at the time.
Um,
Maybe.
I would agree that I was not equipped to do anything more than get myself killed or horribly beaten had I acted any other way. But I have had the
Yeah.
opportunity to be the person between the violent actor and their victim. And I will choose that position as often as I can choose that position. And it's not always a question of safety. It's usually a question of, for me, it's a question of, am I going to come back from this? Not am I going to suffer, not am I going to get hurt. Am I going to come back from this? Is there a loss? And for me, it's usually more of a, how many beatings can I take for you? If you aren't fighting for you, why am I fighting for you? And right now, it doesn't matter who you're getting between them. What little brown person, what little white person. It doesn't matter what agent you're getting between and them. If that agent is wrong, you're eventually protecting yourself. It's that whole concept of, when they came for the artists, I didn't say anything because I'm not an artist. When they came for the politicians, and I'm getting that quote all wrong. I'm paraphrasing it wrong, but it's the same thing.
Yeah, well, and it's really easy for white people because if it's happening because racialism in America is so powerful, it's very to be in a position where you're automatically assumed innocent or you get a break or whatever. It's real easy to go, oh, that black man was beaten in the street. Oh, it's probably a complicated story. We don't really know what's going. You can take that kind of point of view, or oh, it's happening to a Guatemalan immigrant. Well, maybe he's not here legally, but the bottom line is, it's not happening to me
Yes. Quick,
now.
quick sidebar: our viewer Karen is saying that it was Mandela. That's who we were. That's who we were. That's who we were.
Nelson Mandela,
Nelson.
yes. Way to go, Karen. But now it's happening to white people. We are an equal opportunity killer, apparently. The federal government is, and the police are. It seems it seems like some of the ICE folks are taking glee in shooting people. There was apparently a big celebration afterwards after Renee Good was shot. I don't know all of that's true, but that's what what I'm seeing on TV. I heard a lot of course, it's hard on video now to tell exactly what happened, but it looked like people, like ICE agents, were running from the scene, laughing and joking and celebrating that they'd enjoyed discharging their firearms and killing somebody. It's
Well, you're always going to find a few people. You're always, it doesn't matter. Like, in the same way that, they talk about, like, with the police, there's a few bad apples. And, there's that counter argument, which is if you're a good cop and there's a bad cop doing bad things right next to you and you do nothing, that makes you a bad cop. It's the same sort of thing. If one ICE agent is out of line and none of the agents stop him, none of the other agents intercede, then they're all just bad people. They're all just bad people.
And I think that's the culture now, apparently, within ICE. Of course, when you put a bunch of guys with guns they're not very well trained. They've cut down the time to train them. They're not trained like police at all. They get very limited training. They have a financial incentive to grab people. There's no accountability. Apparently, you can just do anything if you're an ICE agent, and even the president will go on the television and defend you, protect you, and make up a story about it. Unfortunately, it appears to be lying directly.
Yes.
There appears to be multiple cases of direct lying from Kristi Noem, from Trump, from this guy named Bovino, that he's a border patrol supervisor. He was in federal court, and the judge concluded that he just engaged in multiple lies. I think those were her words, that he was not credible in any way. As long as this is, what do we do with a lawless regime? What did Nelson Mandela do with a lawless, violent South Africa? People of color seem to be better at teaching this than folks who have held power like I have. They're better at teaching how to deal with tyranny and how to deal with um, lawlessness, really.
And as a sort of an attachment to that thought, a mild defense of ICE agents. Somebody was pointing out, um, um, it's another podcaster. Their exact name is escaping me. They were pointing out that a lot of these people were pulled in with promises of money. You mentioned money earlier. They were pulled in with promises of money, and it turns out that the way their contract works, if they leave before they've been working for ICE for the numbers either 3, 4, or 5 years, I'm not 100% sure, they have to pay back any money they received in bonuses, that $50,000 opening bonus. So they're actually not receiving that $50,000 bonus all up front. They're receiving it in chunks. But if they quit, they have to pay it back. And we're talking about a lot of guys that are, a lot of these people were not upper tax bracket before they joined ICE. They are not in a position to pay back $10,000 or $20,000. So they're kind of stuck, and they're stuck because now, even if they get to a point where morally they feel conflicted about what they're doing, or intellectually they recognize the error of what they are doing, or even if they just go, you know what, if this goes on, I'm going to jail. If that continues, they're not in a position to just walk away and do the thing that they know they're supposed to do. So to a degree, the same government, it's yeah, it's a bad spot for them as well.
Yeah,
Sometimes.
well, I've been thinking, how would I feel? I remember being a National Guardsman and getting trained for riot control in Los Angeles. I never had to go, but I was kind of wondering what it would be like to be plopped into it. Let's say I come from a southern state where it's warm, maybe even hot. It's hot down there, Mitch, isn't it? It's got snakes and bugs, and I know what Arkansas is like because we filmed down there. And,
Yeah, we
and
saw
just
the parts of it that we hadn't expected to see.
we and to be transplanted, dropped in the middle of Minneapolis in in freezing weather on ice. California people do not do well on ice. If it rains here in California, we no longer can drive, apparently. Everybody goes crazy here. Cars are slipping all over the road because we had a quarter inch of rain. So, and that's weather to us. Now, put us on the streets of Minneapolis, and we've got, let's say, 20,000 hostile. I don't know. There were 100,000 protesters in the for the general strike, apparently, something like that in Minneapolis. Let's say just 10,000 of them show up, and we're running into them every day. That's going to put us on edge a lot. That'd put me on edge a lot. Um, I think it's very stressful conditions, and you need just maybe more than regular training on how to deal with that. Not with just the normal training that they apparently abandoned, and they've shortened it now. I don't know how many weeks of training they get now,
Well,
but
okay, and that's another part of the problem. The training they're receiving. Okay, number one, again, the point still is valid. They're drastically undertrained, but they're also being trained for a problem that doesn't exist. They are not, until now, there haven't been crowds to control. And the only reason there are crowds to control is because they are acting outside of the law. They are a lawless gang, and people are slowly getting to a point where they're trying to resist this interloper gang. I had another discussion with a friend who was basically, he was saying that there have been like 200 and some odd ICE agents killed. And I was basically like, where
Really?
are you getting that information? And he had looked at, it's actually the ICE website. They actually have a wall of lost agents on the ICE site. And it says that that's how many agents they've lost. And I don't remember the exact number, but I remember somebody else who was in the discussion said that they're using the dates wrong, that ICE has only existed for about 20 years and that they're
Okay,
drawing.
I got some good question. I got some data for you, Mitch. Okay, so ICE was created in 2003.
Mhm.
29 to 35 ICE agents have died in the line of duty, with a significant number of these deaths resulting from COVID-19 and
Okay.
vehicle accidents and other health issues. Very few were murdered, with only 2 deaths specifically identified as murders between 2003 and 2026.
Okay, so
Two.
I think they must have been looking at the same information you're looking at, because what it came down to was, yeah, there are 2 deaths and neither one of those had anything to do with immigration enforcement. They were killed while on duty, but not one, I think, was a drunk driver. And now, okay, and now I don't even remember that. There were only 2 who have been killed in the line of duty, and neither was killed by like an immigrant that they were chasing or that was resisting or anything like that. So, they everything about what makes ICE ICE at this point is a lie or an exaggeration or some excess that they themselves have created. So it's impossible to address them in a real way, because they're not real. They're not honest. They're not earnest. And they're not fighting a problem that actually needs to be. They're not fighting a battle that needs to be fought. We have another thing that that comes up from time to time is the idea that being an immigrant in this country. Let's say you entered the country illegally. It's not a crime. It is a civil violation. It is a misdemeanor at that. No one is considered to be harmed by you entering the country illegally. It's just a process. And the people that are here, again, another fact, are less criminal as a group than any native born US citizen. The numbers are not in our favor. If we were nothing but immigrants, there would be less crime.
It's
So,
crazy, isn't it?
and as other people point out, that whole, oh, they're taking all of our jobs, but they don't work. They're lazy. You know,
And we
they're
all know that's not true.
right,
If
right. And they're nothing but
if you
criminals,
can,
but you're arresting
oh
them
yeah,
at their court date that they went to because they were assigned, and they are law abiding. There's so many, the arguments on the side of, oh, these immigrants are ruining our country. The fact that these people are not smart enough to see the manipulation. Anybody can be tricked. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, 3, 4, 5, 6. How many more times do you have to be fooled before it becomes your fault? And all of Trump's followers fall into this category. A lot of conservatives who aren't even really Trump followers, who are just in this for the down the road benefit, they're still not seeing the damage. It's the same way that we destroy our environment and then happily act like it's not going on. You can see the damage, you can track it, but we're gonna listen to some random lie and pretend that the harms we're doing aren't really harms. It's
well,
it's confusing.
it's the nature of humans, our ability to deny the obvious and to deny obvious facts. We do it all the time. We watch people, particularly, I don't know if it's particularly, but Americans do it all the time with their health. They eat obviously bad food, or they get obviously overweight, or they obviously smoke. Europeans like that too. Europeans are into smoking. But we do things that we know are tremendously damaging to ourselves, and that'll probably result in early death, and we go ahead and do it anyway. And it's like, so I guess that is one of the reasons is that I struggle to look with a soft eye upon the ignorance of my fellow Americans. And even their willful ignorance is that it is such a human thing to be willfully ignorant and to do the wrong thing. And the problem, of course, is with those soft eyes, I look upon the family, the parents of Alex Preddy, whose son is now dead. And I wonder about the children of Nicole Good, whose mother is now dead. I look at the 5 children of George Floyd, and their father is dead. And so there's a certain suffering when we willfully are ignorant. It may not feel, I just wonder about these ICE agents, if they're suffering. If they go into, I don't know if they're primary, there's a lot of Hispanic agents too. A lot of white agents. I just wonder how they feel seeing people like them and making these gross mistakes of deporting or arresting an American citizen, or taking an abuela, an aged auntie who's maybe there illegally, and throwing her to the ground. I mean, how do we feel about that? How that must affect an ICE agent? But if they have to give back their bonus, they're not going to quit.
Well, and I still put that back to, if a good agent is standing next to a bad agent, you just have 2 bad agents. If you allow them to do these things, it doesn't matter how bad you feel about it. Again, it could be fear. It could simply be fear, and the financial toll is too great. I cannot stop. But it doesn't change anything. You're still complicit. You're still culpable. You're still directly involved. And if all you can do is sit with your head down and feel bad while other human beings are being tortured and murdered right next to you, the American legal system has a standard for, you were in the car, you drove him to the location, he went inside and committed a murder, you committed a murder. With no knowledge that he had, with no knowledge that he was going to commit violence, you committed a murder.
What's very worrying to me is that the 2 men that pulled the trigger on Renee Good and
Mr. Preddy,
Alex Preddy, were both experienced agents. What does that tell us? I don't. What is going on? It must mean there's no mechanism. I don't know. I'm asking the question really in this case. Is there any mechanism in ICE for disciplining, for dismissing rogue agents that murder people, that abuse people, that make no discrimination about an aged woman throwing her to the ground, or is there who manhandle a child?
This is straightforward Rage Against the Machine territory. Those that burn crosses are the same guys joining the forces. They have always been racist. They have always not cared. There was at one time there was a system in place that reined them in, had a leash of some kind on them. They are unleashed. They can do any ugly thing they want. and they know the system will openly and actively lie for them. And
Got
until
a
this
few minutes left.
administration is shut down, that's what's going to continue happening.
Let's talk positively. What can we do? What can we do now? What do we want to advocate? I want to advocate staying within peaceful resistance and consistent standing up resistance, which may still get you shot or hit with pepper spray or knocked down or thrown around or run over. I don't know. Um, I'm That's my hope is that I love my friend offered me a whistle the other day. He attends Monday protests here in Fullerton or in Brea, I guess it is. And I want to advocate that people, wherever you are in contact with an immigrant or a person of color who is in danger here, or a white person, an Anglo person that's in danger here, that you offer them a safe place, not to I don't know how you do that without putting yourself in danger or obstructing the law. I don't know. I don't even know. I don't even know what obstruction means in this context. If you have a lawless, unaccountable agency of the federal government, I don't know. I no longer know what obstructive is. I don't. I'm not sure we don't have a legal and moral duty to obstruct someone that's directly violating the law. It's um it's a difficult situation. Mitch, what do you advocate
I would say that
without
sadly,
getting yourself picked up here?
I would say that sadly, it is not a question of whether or not the person was doing something wrong or whether or not you are doing anything wrong. It is only a question of whether the representatives of the government on the ground are inconvenienced and choose to act. Um, in terms of obstructions, someone runs into your house. You're obstructing if you lie when the agents get to your door. You're obstructing if you lie and say, nope, that person didn't come in there, didn't come in here. But what you can do is say nothing. The lawyers, attorneys around me have told me that the simple truth is if you don't answer the door, they don't have access to your house. You're on your own personal private property. That person could be hiding in your bathroom. You don't answer the door and you don't say anything. They don't have a warrant. They can't come in. The only exception really is if they were literally chasing the person, and there's a name for that. But if they were on the person's heels as they came through your door, that is different. But after that moment, if they're just like we're pretty sure they ran in there, they don't have their go get a warrant. You have to go and get a warrant. You cannot just enter my home. You cannot just enter my business beyond the public areas. So, if someone's in your business and they are, and the person in question is somewhere in an employee area, you don't have to say they're not there. You don't have to say they are there. All you have to say is you are not welcome here. The same way you could have sent that immigrant away, you can send those officers away. Same thing at your door. You don't have to say anything. You only have to send them away. And if you're going to stand the line as a protester, as I don't know where those lines are, but I'm going to stand on the line of if they are committing illegal acts, nothing you are doing to stop them is illegal. It's effectively just a citizen's arrest. I stopped you from doing harm to another human being that you had no right to deliver. You weren't defending yourself. You weren't stopping them from hurting somebody else. That's what we're doing.
It's a difficult time we're in. Yeah.
It is a difficult time. And oddly, it is incredibly simple. Uh, we we have a constitution and we have laws, and it is a sad thing that a system that really should be straightforward is constantly being reinterpreted. And we have to hope that that's what's going to change in the near future, is that we start drawing some lines and making some clear basic interpretations about certain things, and not even interpretations. We know what we meant when we put those laws in place. We just have to reword them so that that intention is made clearer.
And I'm wondering what action Governor Walz could take. And I'm trying to think practically what he could do. I mean, it can't. Is it practically? I mean, it's I don't. It's hard to know what's legal anymore. Can he practically say to his police and National Guardsmen, um, you are mandated to intervene anytime you see ICE breaking the law?
Yes, he absolutely can. The fact that they are government federal agents does not put them above the law. If they are acting without warrants, if they are acting with unnecessary violence, they are outside the law, and they can absolutely be interfered with, stopped, arrested. Again, sending them out of the city is the bare minimum. The bare minimum. Come back when you have warrants. And the unfortunate truth is, because Walls will not act, the people have been left but no choice but to act in his stead, and that is what they are doing. They are blocking off their streets. They are dragging policemen and ICE agents off of their neighbors to protect them, and that's, as far as I'm concerned, that's exactly what they're supposed to do.
Well, thank you. This has been a difficult podcast for me. Um, I'd like us to be more effective. I'd like us to be able to follow the law within our country. I want to know what the law is. I have respected it all my life because it's always been on my side. And now I see that those enforcing the law are no longer on my side. In at least in ICE, and I think this is a major threat to America. And as Mitch was saying, maybe it's always been the federal government or the state governments or the local governments, when they choose to ignore the law, they become a threat to individual citizens. And that's indeed what we have seen in Minneapolis. And my love and heart goes out to them. Um, my daughter is there. She's active in protest there. My grandson is there. Blessings to all of you, and stay safe. Keep your heads down if you can. Um, there are people doing criminal things in your neighborhood, unfortunately. Thank you for listening. See you next time.
Next time.